So this is going to be part 2 of the modding tutorial for the Pizzeria Roleplay Remastered. Today we're going to be rigging a custom character model and putting it in the game. So what we have right here is all you need to make a rig model. I'm going to have a link to this model in the description. This will basically be the basis for any character you want to make. So what is this exactly? So if you're a little bit attentive, then you would see that these are actually the 6 different parts of the R6 model Robloxian. So what these parts are actually going to do is they are actually going to get welded directly onto your character based on the part that they're assigned to. I have studs on the side, so it's easier to tell which way is front facing. So before we do anything else, I'd like you to look over here at the Explorer tab. And if you expand the model here by clicking the little arrow, you'll find that each individual part in here actually has a group of its own. And if you expand each of those groups, then you'll find the part. You may also notice that all the parts are named middle. This is a requirement. And if you look at the properties of each of these models here, you'll notice that there's a property called primary part, which is assigned to the part that is inside of it. So without further ado, I'd like to show you how we can get this simple model into the game. So I'm going to right click it in Explorer, and then I'm going to click copy. Back over here in the actual game, where we're going to want to go to replace the models is in server script service, into economy. Remember, this is where we put animatronic data. Open up animatronic data, and then there's a folder called animatronics. This is going to hold all of the data and all of the models for every character that's in the game. So, for example, let's say that I want this model to replace Foxy. Well, let's open up Foxy in here. So you see we have a script, which we're going to get into in a later video, and then we have the model. So let's take this model out of here real quick, just to show you what it is. It doesn't look like he has the same parts as this basic rig over here, but if you hold Alt, then you'll actually notice here that the rig is very much inside of this character. So I have all of them selected here. If you didn't know, you can also hold down Control and click multiple objects, and you'll actually select multiple objects. So if I turn the transparency here to 0, you'll actually notice that this is very similar to the rig we have over here. One other thing that you'll notice is that every part that is assigned to each limb, I guess you could call it, is inside of this model here. So, you know, you have the little body here. If we select one of these torso pieces, that's also going to be inside of the torso. And you'll also notice that the middle part here, you know, the root that we were talking about, the core part over here is in this as well. So let's just delete Foxy for now. We don't really need him. Let's go back down to where his folder was. Since we have this base model on our clipboard, let's right-click this folder and click Paste Into. It's important to note that the model must be named model. You'll notice none of the models are named, you know, based on the name of the character. They have to be named model. Here we are in the game. I don't have Foxy yet, but if I buy him real quick and I play as him, then you'll notice that his model has been replaced with that little test rig that we made. So now that we know how to replace a model, let's actually get into how to build our own. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is actually build our character. Unfortunately, I don't have the time here to teach you everything there is about Roblox building. I'm sure there are other good tutorials on the site if you're interested in learning how the tools work, but I'm going to build a little bit of a test character here. So while recording this video, I discovered an unfortunate fact about Roblox's model insertion code, in that whenever you insert a model from the catalog, it's automatically going to be off-center no matter what you do. So what I decided to do after struggling with this for a little bit was make my own rig and make that part of the tutorial. Now, the part after this is going to be optional. If you're fine with a slightly off-center rig, then you should be able to use the model that I tried to use, which is still linked down in the description. But if you'd like a little bit of practice with understanding how the rigs in this game work, then I think it would be a good opportunity to follow along and build a rig along with me. Okay, so you might have noticed me struggling a little bit trying to get this to center correctly. So you'll notice if you go into the parts of this rig here and you scroll down to position, it's actually really off-center on the X and Z axes. So I think this is a good opportunity to try and use what we know about the rigs to reconstruct our own basic rig from scratch. So let's start here, make sure our grid is 1x1 studs, just so we don't have any uncentering issues. So once we have this part in here, we want to make sure we understand which way it's facing. If you want to figure out which faces the front, you click on a part, you scroll down to surface, then you open that up, and then you can just click on front surface and it'll highlight it for you. If you want to change it so you can remember, you can click on the little property over here and it'll make a drop-down menu. I'll make it a stud just like the one we had. So drag it up, make a little leg, duplicate it. I'm using Control plus a D, and it makes a copy of the part, but it keeps it at the current position. Make a torso, some arms, last but not least, a head. So now that we got all the parts in the correct position and size, every part that is part of this rig is named middle. So I'm selecting all of these right here. I'm going into the properties under data where it says name, and I'm clicking it, and then I'm just typing in middle. Now you'd also remember that each of these parts was in its own group. So I'm using Control G while selecting a part. And now all of these are in their own group. Every one of these models also had its own name, which would have been the same as the limb that it would be attached to. So this is going to be our right arm, despite it being on our left-hand side. This is because the model is facing this way. So let's name this our right arm. Torso, left arm, don't forget the head, and then the legs. One more thing you might remember that we haven't done yet is we haven't set the primary parts to each middle part. So to do that, we go to the model, we go down to the property primary part, we click on the property, and then our cursor changes a little bit. It lets us select a part either in the Explorer or in our window here. I'm going to use the window here. So you drag your cursor out, you click on the part you want, and then it should set the primary part. Okay, with that settled, all we have to do is group it up. And now we have a rig that is identical to the demo rig, except now it is actually on grid. Alright, so basically what we want to do now is we want to combine both the rig and our new character here. So to do that, essentially what we have to do is make sure that every piece that should move with the Robloxian's head goes into the head over here. Every torso piece goes with the torso, right arm, all of that. So I'm going to show you a simple way that we can do this. So first off, we're going to overlay our rig right on top of our character. We want to make sure that it's aligned. Just like so, it's centered. You can see equal parts of each side jutting out of there. So we want to drag this head piece into the head part of the model. This is the right arm. This is going to be the left leg. This is going to be the torso, left arm, right leg. So now that we have that done, the only thing left to do now is to make sure that all of these middle parts are transparent so they don't show up in the actual game. I'm control clicking over in the Explorer, selecting all of my middle parts. I'm going down into properties, and I'm setting transparency to 1. So now that we have our character model done, all we have to do is simply replace him like we did with the test model we had earlier. Alright, I'm in the game right now, and when we pick Foxy, we should see our character. And there we are. Look at that new block. Alright, so that wraps up this tutorial on how to get a custom character into the game. So I hope you enjoyed, I hope this was helpful. I can't wait to see what you guys plan to make with your mods. Alright, until next time.